Hello, everyone. It's Mr. Phelps. Glad to see you again. I'm going to show you a different project this time. It's going to be a presentation slide deck I made on Canva, and I primarily made this so that I could have a trainer facilitator guide and learner participant guide. I used the templates within our program that were given to me, and I did my best to fit everything on there. I intend to also do one on the Word doc that was attached for a different program. So for this one, it's all done on Canva, and I'll show you my guide first, the facilitator guide. So we go here, and I go to share. I don't know if you can present on this one, but I can kind of zoom in. I thought it would be cool to have a little fun with this one. So if you've ever seen those progressive commercials with Dr. Rick as like the he's there and he's kind of like the psychologist for people who are trying not to become their parents. Well, I thought it would be cool to utilize some of this, add a little humor into it, I guess, as well, and apply this program for college kids who are living on their own or kids after college living on their own, and to teach them about not becoming their parents. So I thought that would be a cool thing to set up a guide for and make a guidebook. So I'm going to run through this guidebook quickly, and it's going to kind of repeat itself when I go through my project. So I'm just going to briefly show this, and then briefly show you what the learners would fill out as we go along. All right. So Dr. Rick's training guide on unbecoming your parents. Okay. So here's a guide for parental life coaches. If you know Dr. Rick, he calls himself the parental life coach. So that's kind of where that came from. All right. So that's the cover page. We're going to go down to here. Dear trainer, thank you for being a parental life coach, as inspired by our founder, Dr. Rick, okay, who is on the left. In this guide, you will find step-by-step instructions on way to teach college students and young adults to live on their own. You must remember that you are the parental life coach, which means that you are ultimately the adult in charge to teach these young adults about how to live their lives. Each page contains different scenarios and activities in which your students must improvise, adapt, and participate in order to find sustainable success in life. Use this trainer guide to facilitate the training, lead great discussions, and help adults find their own personality and own way of living without trying to rely on or please their parents. Enjoy your training sessions. So now it's going to go by slide. So I'm just going to briefly show you this, not get too far into it. But basically, the first slide just kind of introduces the course about growing into adulthood, and having students be on their own. Then it introduces, I did the introduction slide not as the parental life coach, but as Dr. Rick himself. So whoever kind of fills in as the parental life coach is kind of acting in as Dr. Rick in this position. But I used him because he's a well-known example. Thought it would be cool to reference him. Okay. On this slide, everyone will go around and share their names, their college major, and or their job. Okay, and this will get to know each other, but also build some personality into the students, as that's what this course is about, making students feel like they can be on their own, have some individuality, that type of thing. So that's what it's getting down to. All right. Then there's a bunch of expectations here, that it talks about what if you could. I'll go through these on the slides, but this is basically setting up realistic expectations for students, okay? Or for, I say students, learners, participants. They're here to set up realistic expectations for themselves to live their lives, not based on what their parents say. So goal setting is slide 4. So basically, by the end of this course, the participants should be able to use common sense, be themselves, and not have to worry about anyone else's expectations. Okay, it's a course to really find yourself, find your footing in life, to get you going, to be yourself and not your parents. Okay. So then there's a discussion. Let's get started. So this is going to be where everybody shares about themselves. So they wrote it down previously. Now they're going to share, their name, their occupation, their college major, maybe something else. And then if you have some extra time, you can play 2 truths and 1 lie. It's always a fun game to kind of get to know each other. Gets a little off topic, but it really builds the bond between students and builds some individuality, which is what we need. So 2 truths and 1 lie. Can go around and have the participants play that just to kind of learn about one another and build up individuality and free expression. All right, so scenario. This is where we get into the crux of the course. So they're going to be talking about how one should act at a movie theater. There's a commercial about the movie theater that Dr. Rick goes to, where a lot of the participants in his course at that time are coming up with some foolish things as they're there. As he would say, they're foolish, and he's trying to get them out of their ways to teach them to be, individuals, not like their parents. Of course, it's in much more of a joking mood on the progressive commercials, but it's still the same idea here that, talking about how one should act and not being reliant on other people. So this one will kind of preview that, and together you will brainstorm ideas and brainstorm ideas about ways that you should act as an individual at the movie theater. Sounds kind of weird and foolish, but it ties in. Then you have a video discussion. This is going to look at one of Dr. Rick's therapy sessions from a Progressive Insurance ad. Okay, so you would show the participants this video, and then they will discuss ways in which the characters that are not Dr. Rick, the participants that are in the commercial, can improve their neurotic behaviors or can improve their actions. Because again, that's what we're trying to move away from, living on your own. So they will discuss ways in which the participants in the ad can improve their behaviors. All right, and then we go here. The next one is scenarios. So this is all student engagement here. So in their workbooks, participants will jot down 3 ways in which they act like their parents in 3 different scenarios, which is household chores, shopping, jobs. Okay. The idea of identifying it is to be able to later change your ways so that you move away from acting like your parents or move away from acting like a kid to more of an adult. So this may not be, if you have time, you can share. It's not required as it is personal, but participants should be looking at themselves and seeing what they do that's not individual or on their own and seeing how they can change that. So then we go to the next slide, slide number 9, and we talk about some other triggers. You can focus as much or as little on this slide as you want to. I think it's really gauged by student engagement. Where are they? Do you have a lot of learners and participants that need a lot of prodding to get them away from their ways, or do you have more that can just pick up with this and move on? Depending on that, you can focus on a bunch of different other triggers like cell phones, credit cards, laptops, notebooks, just things that, you trying to get individuals to use them correctly and not become reliant on them, but, be able to use common sense when they have these things and not just fall into becoming a robot and following their parents' ways. And, in the commercials, they make a big deal out of, cell phones, how to use them. And obviously everybody knows how to use one, but this is just building common sense in people. What are these objects? How are they used? How can we use them? Things like that, kind of free thought, but, how to get people on the right path in life with these. All right. So now students in this slide, slide number 10, we're going to go back to slide 8 for this. Students are going to have an activity. They're going to choose one of those 3 scenarios from slide 8, which was household chores, shopping, and I believe it was jobs. Okay. Yep, so one of those three. Which one have they struggled with the most? They're going to write a paragraph response explaining how they can improve and change their actions moving forward. Now that they've seen the video and now that they've had some practice and we've discussed other triggers, now is a way to look at how we can show change, okay? How we can become more individual, free, expressive individuals, okay? So that the learners and participants will write this in their guidebook. All right. Now, slide number 10, we're going to look at Megan, a former student of Dr. Rick, who became an artist, but it took her a long way to get there because she had so many neurotic ways and so many ways of being helpless and following her parents and not being an individual that she really needed to learn how to kick it in gear and become a successful artist. She accomplished that, and we're going to look at her specific example that you will share with others. And this is a springboard that, you know, if you're not comfortable sharing hers, you could share somebody else's experience to kind of teach a story to your participants and learners. But the point is that we want to teach students and participants to grow up, you know? And again, I make it sound like this is like adults being little kids. It's not as dramatic and as the commercials, but we still want to teach adults how to follow the right protocols in life when if they were to get a household or if they were to get themselves into adult life. And that's kind of the full meaning of this course is to really focus on that. So her testimonial or a different testimonial could be used in that place. All right. And then the one of the biggest pieces is writing an action plan. Now that participants have seen the different topics, they're going to come up with an action plan. They're going to write down ideas for what they're doing well, what they can improve, and plan for action. So it kind of looks at, you know, what they're doing, what they can change, and then what's their plan to make that change. Okay, so this will give them insight of their goal of becoming more independent. Okay, and it could be in anything. This is their free choice. They're now looking at themselves and seeing what they can improve. I know if it was me, I'd probably want to improve cooking because I'm not a great cook. And so that could be something that I could come up with a plan to improve. Okay, now somebody else's could be something else, you know. I don't eat very much, so I don't cook very much, but it could be something I can improve over time. And lastly, the last slide is open to questions. Do any participants have questions? You know, ask them if they do. Remind them to make their final notes in their workbooks, and you know, move along. There are some other places I might have missed where they fill out workbooks, but it's pretty self-explanatory because on the workbook it will tell what slide they're going to see. And you can also tell participants about Dr. Rick's book if you have time, which continues to promote finding independence apart from one's parents. It may be of use to several. Some others maybe need more prodding, some may need less. So you kind of have to gauge it. But that's some extra time. And then there's a note page. Any notes that you would like to put in that will help you instruct right here. And that's basically it for the trainer guide. So you can take it and leave it. It's obviously more information than you need, but at least it's better to have more than less. So there you go. All right, so now I'm going to show you my actual slide deck project. So if we go here and I go to my projects, this was the guidebook that we just did. Now I'm going to go to the actual slide deck, okay? So this is it here. This is the one I can present, I believe, okay? So unbecoming your parents. A little bit of it might be cut off, so I probably should escape it, show it slide by slide. All right, unbecoming your parents. This is the front of it. You know, you just give a little intro into the course. And welcome, I'm Dr. Rick, trainer and parental life coach. This is where students can introduce themselves in the comments, you know, their college major, job, etc. If you don't get to that, they're going to get to that later on in the slide. So, you know, just keep that in mind. All right. So what if you could do only the chores that make a difference, relax and have some time to yourself without worry, set reasonable expectations for yourself, take a risk to get out of the comfort zone, be able to speak your mind, not have to worry about pleasing others. these are all just realistic expectations for yourselves, for the learners and participants that you could come up with. You can use as many of these as you want. You could come up with your own different ways of doing it, but it's just talking about how you can get in the mindset of taking care of yourself and being an independent person. So, and there is an activity that goes with that in their workbooks. I don't indicate on these slides everywhere where there's an activity. Some of it's they have to be reading along and noticing. Again, do as many or as few of those as you want to do. It's a matter of what works for you to teach the lessons. All right. So by the end of this training, you'll be able to use common sense, be yourself, and not have to worry about anyone else's expectations. That's pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's get started. This is where you're going to share your information if you haven't already. State your name, state your college major or occupation, state a hobby you like to do. I threw that one in there. And then if there's time, do two truths, one lie game where they go around and they say three things about themselves. One's a lie and everybody else has to guess. So just kind of, it's an icebreaker to get you into it, but also build some individuality. Okay, what do you think? You're at a movie theater with a group of your friends. What are the main thoughts that come to mind when you consider having a good time and watching the movie in a comfortable manner? Take 5 minutes and jot down what you believe is most important. When I say jot down, that means they go to their guidebooks and they answer the question which relates to this, okay? There is a question on there about this. Then you can see one of Dr. Rick's videos and actions. There is something in the guidebook, talking about how those characters in there, how they show neurotic behaviors. They're going to write that down in their guidebook to notice how they could change. Okay, that's what the learners and participants will do. All right, so your turn. So this is where you go to your guidebook and you talk about how you act like your parents in these three scenarios. Cleaning every dust spot, buying, oh no, these were my examples. So household chores, shopping, at your job. There were some examples that I came up with. Cleaning every dust spot for household chores. I mean, you don't need to clean every dust spot. It's a neurotic behavior. Shopping, buying only organic. I mean, you buy what you need. If you feel you need organic for certain reasons, go ahead. But you don't only have to buy organic because that's your, you're you. And then using the work phone, I just thought that was interesting because everybody has cell phones. So, that one might be a little tougher at your job, but you can get creative here. You can change the different topics. You can focus on one of them. This slide could take a while to fill that out. Then these are some topics that you can focus on with your participants, okay? So, cell phones, credit cards, other things that could build neurotic behaviors about, okay? Obviously fashion is different from your parents, and it's like, that could be something, procrastinating, whatever students, I say students, learners or participants may need work with to become individual, okay? So your turn. This is going to be the scenario, which one was most difficult from slide 8, okay? Again, that was with the shopping, the household chores, and the jobs. So you're going to choose one and you're going to run with it and write about it. Learners and participants are going to do that. Next slide. This is testimonials from Megan. There are some questions on the guidebook for the participants to fill out about Megan's success story or whatever success story you read about and share. Okay. So now we have an action plan. Students are going to create an action plan by listing what they do well, how they can improve, and what their plan of action is. Okay. Pretty straightforward. And that's in their guidebooks. And lastly, do you have any questions? Buy the book and feel free to reach out. Kind of a little merchandising slide, but it also has the email for the presenter, and you'll be able to answer questions. And if you have time, you can even read from the book a little bit if you have a copy of it. So that's basically the slide. You've seen parts of the guidebook. You're gonna see more parts of it. So you'll see all of the whole kind of culminating project here for this one on Canva. Thank you for watching. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the participant guide. This is kind of the other side of the trainer guide. The trainer guide is the one who trains the lesson. Obviously, the participant guides are, the students, I call them students, but the learners and participants that are in the class trying to become more free adults, okay? Dr. Rick's How to Unbecome Your Parents, Participant Learner Guide. I found a picture with a lot of young adults on there. Thought that was pretty cool. So basically, it's a workbook. The whole thing's a workbook, and you go through different parts. So I'll kind of briefly go through them, and it tells you what slide on here. It makes it nice and easy. It tells you what slide it refers to. Okay. So slide 2, it's a writing activity. Building one's individuality is crucial. Is the steps of unbecoming one's parents. By knowing who you are, you develop your own persona. Write your name, college major, and or occupation. Then share these with your group. So obviously we did that. We talked about that. Now this is where they write down those 3 pieces of information that they're going to share. Okay. There's a typo there that I got to fix. There we go. All right. So slide 3, another writing activity. Most of these are writing activities. Now that you've heard of some realistic expectations, name 3 expectations that resonate with you. These could be expectations you follow, want to follow, or found interesting. Give a brief one-liner reason why these expectations are important. All right, so as you're on slide 3, you're talking about realistic expectations. This gives students some insight, really just gets them thinking about what realistic expectations are and whether they follow them or not. So kind of just gets them thinking. All right, so managing expectations. In slide 3, you learned about expectations. The same expectations are listed below. Check off the expectations you have met. Leave the other boxes blank until you complete the expectation. Lastly, add 3 new expectations that you have yet to complete. Check off all expectations only after you've met them. Okay, so these are exactly the ones from slide 3. Do only the chores that make a difference, relax and have time to yourself without worry, set reasonable expectations for yourself, take a risk to get out of your comfort zone, be able to speak your mind, don't worry about pleasing others, and then there's 3 more here, okay, that they would come up with, the participants would come up with. Okay, so you check that off. If the learners or participants haven't achieved it, they can leave it blank and check it off later once it's achieved. All right, so now we move on to scenarios. Slide 6. Write down examples of managing expectations while at the movie theater with your friends. Think about how you can have this experience by being yourself without becoming your parents. What makes movie watching comfortable? What are the most important expectations to make this experience pleasurable? List at least 3 ideas. Again, kind of free thought, there's no right or wrong answer. It's whatever you think makes movie watching successful at a theater. The participants may want to go back and watch the video of movie theater, the progressive ad, or they can just kind of spring the ideas off and, give what their expectations are. So just to get them thinking. Next one, watch. This one's a video. While watching Dr. Rick's Methods Progressive Insurance commercial, this is slide 7, look for ways in which the participants, not Dr. Rick, fail to unbecome their parents. Where do you think the participants fail, and what can they do to lead successful individual lives and unbecome their parents? Okay, so this is just talking about the video, and we basically discussed this in slide 7, but now, before students discuss it, they can write down these answers as they go or after the discussion, okay? To talk about how the parents fail to unbecome their parents in the video, just to build some awareness here. All right, the unbecoming. Slide 8, in the boxes below, lists 3 ways you act like your parents in these various scenarios, okay? So we talked about this in slide 8. I showed you almost identical to this. So now they're filling out household chores and they're coming up with 3 ways in which they act like their parents. That might actually be harder than you think, believe it or not, for 3 different ones. So they're going to do their best trying to come up with 3 for each one. Shopping, at your job, household chores. So we'll see. Slide number 9. This is a writing activity. Out of the 9 topics mentioned on slide 9, which one do you feel you would have the most difficulty with when it comes to unbecoming your parents? Explain. Okay, so slide 9. Trying to think of what slide 9 was. We had covered that. Let me go back up here. Slide 9. Oh, yes, that was the one where we talked about the main ideas. So depending on how long we spend on there, they may have a little bit to write. They may have more. It's basically talking about the triggers. So whatever trigger comes to mind. All right. Slide 10. Similarly to the last slide, which scenario from slide 8 was the most difficult, and how can you change your actions to unbecome your parents moving forward? Okay, so they're choosing which one was the most difficult and how they can change. Okay, they're making a paragraph there. And slide 11, why was Megan successful in her pursuit to unbecome her parents? Explain. So you can look at Megan's success story or whatever success story you read and explain how they became successful. Okay, so and lastly, slide 12. I thought that was the last one, but no, I had this one. Can't forget this one. This is their action plan. We talked about the action plan. Now they're going to fill it out here, and then they're going to write a paragraph about their action plan. Okay, the one they feel most comfortable with. Basically, they're going to explain how they can improve and make necessary changes to unbecome their parents. All right. So, and then there's notes. So this has a lot in it. As the instructor, facilitator, you don't have to have participants fill in every single page. I just added more because I figured the more the merrier. You can choose what you like. You can skip some parts. I mean, there's a lot of writing for this, probably more than there should be. But again, I think it's always better to have more than less. So you can pick and choose whatever you need to focus on, okay? Because maybe it's not focusing on unbecoming your parents. Maybe it's focusing more on just fitting into the adult world, and you can look at it from that perspective. So pick and choose, go through the presentation, but you can pick and choose and show students what it's like to do this. All right. And that's basically it. That's the student guide. Again, I tried to make it long enough just so I could show my ability to make it, but also to give some free thought to how it should be done.